That's real advice. If you give people the credit they deserve, whenever they have the chance to either bring you in on something or give you your credit or shout you out or whatever, they're going to do it. And here's the worst case scenario. This is the worst case scenario. You don't get enough clout. You don't get enough money. Those are the two worst case scenarios. You got to understand, I might have spoken on this before, but you need to hear it. And I know there's people in here who will benefit from this conversation. And I know there's producers and artists in here who will maybe change their viewpoint from this conversation. So I'm dropping a bomb. A lot of people who are unbelievable musicians and unbelievable instrumentalists don't get treated like producers the way they should. That's such a big thing. And I need you guys to change that. Like, you guys in here who are trying to do right by people who have been fucked out of credit before, who have had people not tag you or take your tag off or steal your shit or whatever. If you've ever had that feeling, then you can't give that feeling to somebody else. How? You know what I mean? Like, obviously we know people who, if your parents treat you one way, you might end up treating your kid one way. Like, you guys got to break the cycle here when it comes to the treatment of people in this game who aren't the face, who aren't the name, who aren't the person talking to the artist. Because I work with so many people who are huge musicians, huge, unbelievable, talented guys. You won't believe how, like, a Yusef or a Tom or a Thundercat or these guys who I look at as like some of the greatest people making music right now. I don't think about it like, oh, here's someone who plays an instrument. Yes. Here's someone who writes songs. Here's someone who's an artist. I listen to a lot of Yusef's music. I listen to a lot of Thundercat. I listen to a lot of, you know what I mean? A bunch of these people, JD and Domi. When these people get brought into sessions, a lot of time, not because of a bad intention, not because someone's trying to be a dick or trying to be a tough person. Like, but people get brought into sessions and it's like, yo, play on this. Or like, yo, I got this song. I thought it'd be cool if you fucking got on this. Or they're just even worse than that. It's just like, yo, play some shit. And like, they'll bring in these people who are not only songwriters, not only producers, but these unbelievable musicians and kind of start a session like, yo, you guys, like, you want some, like, you want a tempo? You want like a clap? Like, da-da-da. And like, people give them next to nothing and just expect them to go. We talk about having to cook up in front of artists as producers, but what's my advice? My advice to you as like someone who's trying to be as honest as I can is pull up something that's really hot, put some drums on it, you know what I mean? Flip it a couple times, do some things to make it interesting, blah, blah, blah. Make sure you're done as quick as possible with as high quality as possible. That's my real advice. When you're in a room with an artist, they say, all right, let's cook from scratch, da-da-da. You guys know the deal, whether it's with me, because you watch me stream, or with yourself. I'm not going to sit here and stumble through presets on a synth. I'm not going to stumble through plugins. I'm not going to have the risk of playing something that turns somebody off. I can't have that. If I go to the keys and the first thing I try is really whack because I'm not good enough at keys, and the people in the room are like, that's what the beat's going to be, just because they're jumping the gun and they're making that assumption that the first thing I play is that. That's how it goes sometimes. You know what I mean? It's like, I have learned how to deal with the stress, and that's it. I have a lot of co-producers, a lot of people I fuck with, a lot of musicians I'm friends with. Like, I was here last night with Vicky, who plays keys, is one of my favorite people, and Zakari, unbelievable artist, unbelievable singer, songwriter. And the three of us have a conversation, and the three of us all like chip in here and there, trying to figure out what's the best way to approach the beat or the song or the melody or whatever it might be. A lot of people don't get treated that way. And a lot of musicians, it's like, oh, you played on this. That's so toxic. To tell someone like, oh, you just played on this, whenever the whole song was built around what they played on a guitar, on a bass, on drums, or whatever it might be. Like, whenever you use a loop, yes. If you use a loop from somebody, even if it's royalty free, that just means the business is structured so that you aren't paying that person whenever, or at least whenever you pay that initial fee to buy that kit or buy that loop pack or whatever the agreement was, that's all it is. And so now you can use it for whatever you want. And he said, but that's just the business of it. It doesn't mean your beat isn't built around something that someone else made. It's the truth. People don't use loops for that reason. That's why loops have taboo about them. That's why loops are like, oh, I don't use them. Fuck loops. Oh, that's boring. He uses loops. That's why it's like has a bad connotation, because people are like, oh, you just took something someone else made and you did a little bit of work and then you got all the credit because you went and played it for the artist, or you're the producer. You have the tag on the song, whatever. But the loop is what the artist is singing to. That's the harmony of the song. That's what inspires the melody. That's what inspired your drums. I use loops all the time. I'm not going to stop using loops. I'll use loops for my whole life. All my favorite producers of all time use loops. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. But just that name, just calling it a loop and not understanding that this is a co-pro, that's where I've had to learn, and I hope you guys can learn, that there's a level of respect that you want as a producer and you want people to give you as someone who worked on this song. You need to give it to everybody else who worked on this song. And yes, you can do a lot of shit by yourself. So does that mean don't use loops, don't use co-producers? No. But what it means is, if you do, which will most likely make the song a lot better, the more brains at it, the better it's going to be. Like, if you can't play an instrument well and you bring someone in to play that instrument really well, like, it's going to make the song better. If you start thinking about, oh, what about the money? What about the credit? What about this? Wrong reasons, wrong thought pattern. Like, so when it comes down to, all right, so the person who played the piano loop or the guitar or whatever that they gave to me, they are 50-50 with me, the producer. Even if, no matter what you heard, no matter what you've seen, no matter like what your manager says makes sense or whatever, it's just tell them you want to do 50-50. I just say I want to do 50-50 with everybody else who worked on it. If you do that 100% of the time, people are going to go so hard for you. Like, that's real advice. If you give people the credit they deserve, whenever they have the chance to either bring you in on something or give you your credit or shout you out or whatever, they're going to do it. And here's the worst case scenario. This is the worst case scenario. You don't get enough clout. You don't get enough money. Those are the two worst case scenarios. Enough people don't know you did the song, or you don't get enough opportunities, because the opportunities get split in half. And they only know one tag or one person or the other. That's one scenario. The other scenario is the publishing gets split, the royalties get split, the master gets split. You know what I mean? All the money down the streaming, everything gets split because you co-produce. Those are the two worst case scenarios. So after that happens, like, what, like, are you never going to do a beat again? Is that the last beat you're doing? Is that the only beat you're doing this year? Like, if you and that person just collabed and you just made one beat for someone that did really well, if the math is correct, you guys do another beat for somebody else that does well. It's like you both got one huge placement each, if you're really greedy about the money and you want to think about it that way. Like, why not go do more with this person? Why are you sitting there like, oh, but I need my percentage, but I need my credit, but I need my... Bro, give everybody equal share, even if you feel like you did a little more. Even if you feel like, da-da-da. If you're coming up, if you are not in a position to where, like, you know what I mean, you have all this stuff figured out, I highly doubt if you're in the position to divide up the room, this percentage, this person, this percentage, this person, I doubt you'd be in here listening to me talk. That's the facts. I doubt you'd be watching the clip of this on YouTube or whatever it might be if you really were a person who was at the money level where you got to break things down into a pizza pie. Like, even at my level, 50-50. Like, it's very rare, unless a song gets completely written and a loop gets switched out. You guys have seen me make a whole beat and then switch a loop out. I'll make a whole song and switch a loop out. Things become a different conversation. If someone writes all their lyrics to a piano, let's say, and at the end of that, I bring in a guitar player, it's a different conversation. Additional production is a thing. You know what I mean? Like, work for hire is a thing. Someone coming playing on top of something or doing a replay or whatever, those are arrangements. And I understand how those can happen. What I don't understand is someone who plays an instrument says, hey, I made these loops, or hey, I made these ideas. Here's a bunch of my ideas. You flip them, and then all of a sudden it has your tag on it. you're the only producer, you're the only person making the money on it, and you're trying to argue with the kid that like it's just a loop pack. Like it doesn't make sense. So for people like JD, Domi, Thundercat, like for them to come play for you guys last night the way they did, it's a gift because people can't take advantage of them because they're solid and they're all doing extremely well and they have really strong management and really strong teams and their careers are going really well. But they know what it is when people are just like, yo, come play on my stream. Yo, come fucking, let's make beats together. It's people who want to get them in a room and just say, hey, play some shit. Where it's like they're songwriters, they're producers. You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't walk into a room with an artist you really want to work with and be like, yo, rap some shit. You would never do that. You know what I mean? So I don't understand why that makes sense whenever it's a musician, especially a super gifted, virtuoso musician. Like, I think we just need to normalize the fact that if someone plays on a record before that goes to an artist, that's a co-pro. If someone comes and plays on a record after a song is written, I understand how it works. But I know for a fact that people are out here and they use certain terms, man. It's just like, oh yeah, this guitar player gave me something and I flipped it. I'm guilty of saying that. You know what I mean? And now it's like, I know it's like whenever Jared sends me stuff he made with his guitar, it's like he's my co-producer. You know what I mean? Like the Dominic Fike phone number song, like those guitars come from Jared. It's not like, oh, this guy gave me, you know what I mean, some dry acoustic guitars off an iPhone, and then I put RC20 on them, and they had the texture, they had the vibe, they had all this shit going for them before he gave them to me. That's what inspired Dom. That's my co-producer. I went to Jared. Fug Zales. But yeah, credit your musicians the way you credit your producers, the way you credit everybody else. It's hard enough being a producer. Like, you're already getting fucked over. You're already very replaceable. You're already not getting even close to the cut of the record that like an artist will get or the label will get or whatever. Like, you can't be cutting people out also. How does that work? Like, we're people who already, you know what I mean? Say you produce a whole record. Say you come with a melody idea. You play every instrument, you engineer the record, you do all the vocal production, you rearrange the vocals, you rearrange the lyrics, like you do every single thing you can to add all this style to it. You create this whole song with this artist basically, and songwrite and do all these things. You are getting a maximum of 2, 3, 4 points on a record. 4 is huge. Like that's percentage. Points are a percentage. On the master, you're going to get a couple points. There's no such thing as like you get 50% of the master with the artist. There's no such thing. Not unless you're an artist. If you produce the song, like you're getting a couple points. So at the end of the day, how are you going to be someone who already is working their ass off, you know what I mean, for this little piece of the pie, and then someone's going to come in and have a huge contribution, and you're going to just say, oh, they're just a bass player, they're a guitar player, they're just a music, like, come on. So yeah, there's a fee, there's an advance, but I'm talking about the behind the scenes business. I'm not Tony Hawk of Twitch.